Hi, everybody. Welcome to Remote Art Wednesday. And I'm speaking to you from the world of the iPad. We're going to do today's lesson just as an iPad lesson. All right, so we're talking about drawing a realistic portrait. And if you've never done any kind of realistic drawing of a person, then I've got this little video for you. If you feel like you kind of know what's going on with this, you can just jump ahead to video number 2. So if you're just starting to draw a realistic portrait, the first thing you want to think about is that the human head is very three-dimensional. It's not just a flat thing that a face is drawn on. And when we turn our head different ways, our face and our head look very different. So our nose changes from different angles. Our eyes, of course, you can only see one eye when we're sideways, but also the shape of the eye changes. And even just the whole shape of the head changes. These are the basic views that a portrait artist thinks about. You've got a front view, you've got a side portrait or a profile, and then those top ones are, she's turned part of the way. We call that a 3/4 view. She's turned a little bit in one and more in the other one. Here's Abraham Lincoln, same kind of thing. On the bottom, he's just turned in 2 different directions for his 3/4. And these different views are good for different things. For a front view, you can see the eyes really well. You can see the mouth really well. But maybe you can't see the nose that well. You can get a good sense of the shape of the head, but maybe you can't see the ears that well. In a side view, you get a great view of just the shape, the outline of the nose, the chin, but the eye turns into this kind of triangle thing. Maybe you don't really get that good a look at someone's eye from the side. The 3/4 view you could think of as the best of both worlds because you get the outline of the nose, you get a good look at least one ear, and you can see the eyes really well too. And you can also see the line of like the cheekbone really well. So a lot of artists go for the 3/4 view. We're just going to be talking about the front view for now. Here's a really cool painting by the great portrait artist Anthony van Dyck. And he somehow got the King of England, Charles I, to pose for him for this. It's kind of like a showpiece painting where he's showing off how he can paint the same person from 3 different angles. Okay. All right, so we're just going to be talking about the front view today, and I've got a whole bunch of front view pictures of people from history and celebrities and just anyone that people ask me to look up. I tried to find a picture of them. Okay, and we can think about things that faces have in common and things that are different. Now, with some of these, I took a few pictures of the same person, and we can see the same person can look very different depending on how the light is, depending on what kind of camera you're using. This picture is probably a wide angle camera, so it makes his nose look a little bigger, and it sort of pushes his ears back. This is just more of a regular kind of camera. Okay, different expressions will make your face look different. So, let's get started. Just going to leave a little window there. We might refer to some of these pictures as we go. I'm just going to draw what I would call a generic head. It's not really any particular person. We just want to get a feeling for what a lot of heads have in common. All right, so I'll be sketching in this sketchbook app. I'm using a pencil tool, which is kind of like a pencil. I'm using this because my hand always seems to get in the way when I film myself drawing with pencil. So here we go. The shape of the head. The shape of the head is usually a little bigger on top, and it's kind of like an oval, but it gets smaller on the bottom. Now, when we look at all these pictures, we can see that some people have very square jaws. Some people have smaller jaw lines. Some people it's more angular. But I'm going to sketch a shape kind of like an upside down egg. All right, so as we come down the sides, it gets sort of straight. When I'm trying to draw symmetrical, or the same on both sides, I sort of go back and forth. To get the shape. All right, start off lightly. Okay, so there's my basic head shape. And you know, as you can see, the shapes of the heads that we have here, not everyone is going to look like that. Sometimes this jaw might be more kind of almost angled on the bottom, and the chin might be a little flatter. Right? So if you can get the shape of your person's head pretty close to what they look like, that helps. Now the neck. Maybe you just draw cartoon necks and you just make a couple of lines like this usually. But when we're drawing realistically, the neck is overlapped. The neck sort of starts behind the ears, right? And comes in. And there's a little bit of overlapping that happens there. The front muscles of the neck overlap a little bit, and these muscles from the back come out behind that. Okay, so here's just the base now. We've got the head and the neck. And I'm going to sketch, this might help you a little bit. I'm going to sketch a very light, erasable line down the middle like that. I'm not using a ruler or anything. It's not perfect. And I'm going to make a little line coming across. I think that's pretty close to the middle. I'm just eyeballing it, just to help us make everything symmetrical. Just erase that. I think that's closer to the middle. Okay, so the part of the face we're going to start off with will be the eyes. And of course, everybody's eyes are different. But there's some things that maybe are similar. Okay, and the eye, you could kind of, I'm just going to sketch an eye on the side here. This would be the simplest representation of an eye. Kind of like a fish shape, right? Oh, this thing keeps getting crooked. Now, a real eye is a little different from that. It's usually a little bit wider as it comes to the inside. Um, a lot of times it's a little bit rounder on top than on bottom, not always. And then it's got this little dip thing here that the tears come out of. Okay, usually there's some kind of pinching at the ends, whatever the shape is. Now, the inside shapes. This is very important. If you, okay, my top one is going to be sort of like an eye of someone who doesn't really know how to draw realistically. If you just draw like this, your person is going to look very unnatural. Take a look at the iris. The iris is the outside colored part, and the pupil is the black dot in the middle. Now take a look at that iris. Can you see the top of it? Let's look at all these different people. Can I just, oh, it's not letting me scroll. Let's look at somebody else. Can you see the whole iris? Let's look at someone else. Can you see the whole thing? No, the top of it gets cut off, right? So when you draw, sorry. Oh my goodness. Somehow the color changed to white. Sorry, guys. So when you, having some technical problems here. So when you draw the iris, you're not going to draw the whole thing. I mean, sometimes the bottom gets cut off too, but you're going to show that part of it gets cut off. And the eyelid, now with some people you really see a lot of the eyelid, with some people you don't. It's usually kind of wrapped around the outside. So let's see. Let's put the eyes in this face. The eyes are actually in the middle. And this is a really important thing. Let's see if that's true. Okay, so here's a ruler. And are his eyes in the middle? Let's see, this ruler doesn't have numbers on it, but whatever those things are, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. He's 12 things tall, his head. And let's see where the eye is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that line right there, it comes right about where his eyes are. So, and you can experiment with different faces. The eyes are usually right around the middle. Sometimes tiny bit higher, sometimes a tiny bit lower, but usually right around the middle. And how far apart should the eyes be? Usually you want the eyes to be about far apart enough to fit another eye in between. Okay, so I'm just going to sketch those eyes in. Could I fit another eye in between? Yeah, pretty much. And that center line helps you keep things pretty even. The nose is usually halfway between the eyes and the chin. Of course, everyone's a little different. Some people have longer noses, some people have shorter noses. And the nose is a funny thing. If there's strong light on the side, then you see a lot of shading on one side. But if there's not, it might look kind of flat on the sides. You might just see like a little tiny bit of shading. Here there's a lot more light on one side, so you get that shadow on the side. Here there's not. Here there is more. Here it's pretty flat. You don't see much of the side of the nose. But the bottom of the nose, there's a lot of differences in the shape of that bottom part. But there's three basic parts there. Okay? You've got, let's take a look at Kobe Bryant. You've got this middle part. I'm going to sketch it on the side. You've got this middle part that dips down, and then you've got the two nostrils that sort of wrap around that. And this can look very different for different people, of course. Now, we're looking at, let's just take a look at, in this case, the bottom part sort of dips down below the nostril parts. All right, so that can happen a lot of different ways. Here, the three parts are almost like a line. That all run together. Here you see a lot more. He's looking up a little bit. His chin is up a little bit. And you see a little bit more of the inside of nostrils. You know, you got a little bit more something like that. But it's always those three shapes. You've got the middle round part, and then those two wing things, sometimes with overlapping and sometimes without. I'm going to make this person with the overlapping. Make it kind of round in the middle. This person's got some of the inside of the nostrils showing. This sort of wraps around. This is just one of many possible noses. Now I'm going to draw the eyebrows now, because well, they're really important. And the eyebrows and the nose really go together. Let me just erase that little bit of stuff that we don't need here. You know that the eyebrows go right into the bridge of the nose. And you get this kind of a, I'm sketching that in lightly because usually you don't see it so dark. Let me even out that nose a little bit. If the light was coming from the front, you might just see shading coming on the sides of the nose, like in that photograph. And you also might see some shading around the eyes. I should have shaded that iris in a little more. Now the mouth, well, there's so many different kinds of lips and mouths. It can come in so many different shapes, different widths. Right? So, but in a lot of mouths have a little bit of just the shape of the line of the in between the lips. Might be a little bit of a bowing down in the middle. And then the lips, it's got a little bit of I call it a volcano shape. Not always. Sometimes it's kind of an even curve. But it kind of comes up like in hills, but dips down in the middle, almost like a volcano. The bottom lip curves down. And, sometimes there might not be much of a line for the bottom lip. Sometimes there is. Well, if you wear lipstick, of course there is. But like here, you don't really see so much of an outline except in the middle. You might see some shading underneath. The top lip, here we can really see that here. If there's light coming from above, the top lip is going to be shaded in more than the bottom lip. Right? Very often there's some shading underneath the nose too. Now, ears. Let's see. Where's a picture where you could see? Oh, here's some good ears. Where do the ears fit in? Not everyone's the same with that, but a lot of times it's kind of a little bit below the eyebrow, and it usually ends around the bottom of the nose. And ears can be very different. Some people, their earlobes kind of go. Oh, I don't think I made that long enough, did I? Let me redo that. Some people's ears hang down more. Some people's ears stick out more. And then you usually see a little bit of the cartilage. Now let's take a look here. It might look like this person's got a lot of forehead, but once you start sketching in the hair, see, that looks just about right. In fact, you'll probably want to put more head on top. And this person could be anybody. I don't know. I just kind of bounced around, looked at different features. I didn't give this person eyelids. Like, with some people, you really don't see much eyelid. I guess you could see a little bit of Toni Morrison's eyelids. But, some people have deeper set eyes. And some people you really don't see eyelids very much at all. I'll give this person some eyelid. So here's my generic person. And I hope that gives you some idea of drawing a face. Enough to start to look at a particular person that you're going to choose and see if you can draw the way that person looks. Okay, so all right, maybe just practice drawing an imaginary, realistic head for a little while, and then try to draw one of the actual people that we have pictures of. Okay.